All right, so we're back. And today we are diving into something you guys really wanted to hear about.
Yeah.
Excerpts from the book, The Camino Within. And what really stood out to me when I was reading through these excerpts was how the author was highlighting these moments that really anyone could have. These just like everyday occurrences.
Yeah.
But they end up becoming these like huge learning experiences or opportunities for growth.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's kind of what grabbed me about this book, too.
Yeah.
It's not like a straight travelogue, you know? It's like...
It's deeper than that.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it makes you kind of look at your own life and think like,
right.
Okay, what am I missing?
Absolutely.
What little things could I be learning from?
Yeah, and the author actually gives a great example of this right in the beginning.
Yeah.
When they're talking about their experience in Montes de Oca, and they start out,
Yeah.
you know, like really focused on their own journey.
Yeah.
It's all about them, you know?
Right. It's very like internal. Right?
Very, very
Like,
internal.
very personal.
Yeah. And then they have this like chance encounter with a local.
Right.
And it just like...
Totally changes their perspective.
Yeah, it like totally shifts how they're seeing things.
Yeah, and what's so interesting to me about that particular anecdote is like the difference between how the author is viewing the Camino as this, you know, intensely personal, potentially life-altering pilgrimage, and how the woman they're talking to, this local woman, how she views this whole thing. And for her, it's just kind of like, yeah, these pilgrims, they come through every year.
Right.
They bring a little bit of life to the area, but, you know, they're also...
A little crazy.
A little crazy, yeah.
Yeah. And she just kind of throws that out there.
Right, exactly.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like a reality check.
Totally. And it makes you think about how often we do that in our own lives, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We assign so much significance to our own personal struggles and triumphs.
That we kind of forget that they exist within this much broader context.
Right. And the world doesn't stop for our problems.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
We're just one little piece of this huge puzzle.
Totally. And I think that's why the author's realization that not everything is all about the self really resonated with me.
Me too.
It's this reminder to look beyond our own immediate needs and anxieties and consider the impact we have on the people around us, even in these really small, seemingly insignificant interactions.
And like even just physically, right? When you're walking the Camino, you're literally sharing the path with all these other people.
Absolutely.
From all these different walks of life.
Right. And you're bumping into people, you're stopping to chat.
Right.
You're asking for directions, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and those little moments, those little connections, they add up.
Yeah.
They create this sense of interconnectedness that I think is so important.
And then the author kind of takes that idea a step further and starts talking about how these new environments, these new people that you meet, they're constantly like providing these opportunities for growth. Yeah.
Right.
And specifically, they talk about biking, part of the Camino.
Right.
And just how meeting all these different people really added this like multi-dimensional aspect to their life.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it.
And I'm curious, like when you think about that multi-dimensional aspect, what does that actually mean?
Well, I think for the author, it's about like understanding different ways of life.
Okay.
You know, getting outside of their own bubble. And I think for anyone really, that kind of multidimensional growth comes from embracing new experiences. Whether it's, you know, learning a new language or picking up a new hobby.
Right.
Or just traveling to a place you've never been before.
Yeah, and it's like you're adding these new layers to your understanding of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're not just seeing things from one perspective anymore.
And you're not getting stuck
right
in one way of thinking.
Exactly.
And the author goes on to talk about something that I think is so relatable.
What's that?
Packing too much.
Oh, yeah.
Like they really struggle to let go of stuff.
Of possessions.
Yeah. And it's funny because it seems like such a simple thing.
Yeah.
But I think it speaks to this like larger...
It's like a metaphor.
It is a metaphor.
For all the baggage we carry around.
Totally.
You know, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, too.
Right. It's like our old beliefs and our routines.
Our fears.
Yeah, the things that make us feel safe.
Right.
Even if they're not actually serving us anymore.
Exactly. And the author even talks about, like, missing that extra sweater on a cold night, but ultimately realizing that they were better off without it.
Right.
You know, it's that short-term discomfort that leads to this long-term gain. And I think that's a really powerful lesson for all of us.
Yeah, because it's like we can get so attached to things, whether it's like physical possessions or, like you said, those like mental and emotional patterns that we're just not willing to let go.
Even when it's holding us back.
Yeah.
And I think what the author is saying is that by challenging those attachments, by consciously choosing to lighten our load, we open ourselves up to so much more.
To new possibilities.
Yeah, to new experiences, to new ways of seeing the world.
And it's like the Camino itself really like amplifies the whole process.
It does.
Right, you're constantly moving, you're meeting new people every day.
Right.
You're forced to be present.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why the author was able to learn so much. You know, they even talk about picking up bits of new languages along the way.
Yeah, it's like your brain is just like soaking it all up.
A sponge.
Yeah. And I love how they connect that to the idea that so many of our future interests are still out there.
Yeah.
Like waiting to be discovered.
Right. Like we don't even know what we don't know.
Exactly. And it's like if we just stay in our routines and our comfort zones.
Right.
We're never going to find those things.
Exactly.
That really light us up.
Totally. And the Camino forces you out of that.
Yeah.
You know, it throws you into these situations where you have to adapt.
You have no choice.
You have no choice.
But to be open.
Yeah. And that's where the magic happens.
To new experiences, to new ideas.
To new people.
To new people,
It's amazing.
And it's like those aha moments that we all crave.
Yeah.
It seems like the Camino just like breeds those.
It does.
Right, because you're just so...
You're primed for it.
You're primed for it.
You're open, you're receptive, you're curious.
Yeah, you're like constantly being exposed to new things.
Exactly.
So it's like those connections just naturally happen.
They do.
And then the final point that the author makes, which I think is like so crucial, is this idea of non-judgment and self-reflection.
Right.
And it's funny because it seems like kind of a simple concept.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just don't judge people.
Yeah.
But it's so much deeper than that.
It is. It's about understanding that our reactions to others often say more about us than they do about the person we're judging.
Right. And they actually say this. Yeah. That when we judge others, we're actually seeing a reflection of something within ourselves.
Totally.
Which is like...
It's deep.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
It is.
Like a mirror.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what is it about that person that's bothering me so much?
Right.
And what does that say about me?
Exactly.
And that's like a really hard question to ask yourself.
It is.
Right.
But it's so important.
Yeah, because it shifts the focus from like external criticism to internal awareness.
Exactly.
So instead of pointing fingers, you're like, okay, what is this bringing up for me?
Why am I reacting this way?
Yeah, and how can I learn from this?
Totally. And I think for, you know, the listener who's out there trying to make sense of the world, trying to navigate all this information, all these different perspectives, this practice of non-judgment is so valuable. It allows you to stay open to new ideas, to new possibilities.
To different ways of seeing things.
Exactly.
And I think it also prevents you from getting overwhelmed.
Totally. Because if you're constantly judging everything, you're never going to be able to really process anything.
Yeah, you're just going to be like shutting things down.
Exactly.
Before you even give them a chance.
Right.
So to like kind of bring it all together, what we've learned from the Camino Within is that it's so important to be willing to shift our perspective.
Absolutely.
To embrace new experiences, even when they're uncomfortable. To stay open to learning. And maybe most importantly, to remember that every interaction, even the ones that drive us crazy, can be a learning experience.
Totally. And the author actually includes this quote from Pema Chodron.
Yeah.
That I think really sums it up beautifully.
Okay.
She says, if we learn to open our hearts, anyone, including the people who drive us crazy, can be our teacher.
It's so true. And it's like such a simple statement, but it's so profound.
It is.
And it really applies to like every aspect of life.
Absolutely.
Right? Not just walking the Camino.
It's about how we move through the world.
Yeah, how we interact with each other.
Exactly.
How we approach challenges.
Totally.
How we learn and grow.
It's a life philosophy.
It really is.
Yeah.
So for you, the listener, here's something to think about. Okay. What's one area of your life right now where you might be holding on to a really strong preference or a judgment?
Okay.
Or maybe you're just like stuck in a certain way of thinking.
Right.
What would happen if you consciously made an effort to open yourself up to a different perspective.
To a new way of seeing things.
What could you learn?
Right.
What could you gain?
Exactly.
What new possibilities might open up?
It's worth considering.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.